This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money, and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by Author U and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, we are in the heat of the summer, at least those of us who are in Colorado are feeling a little bit of the heat today, finally. So I'm loving it. And my guest with me, who you have heard many, many, many times, also wears Denver as Colorado as his home base. And what Nick Zelinger and I are going to be probing into is really one of the hot topics that was at the Author U Extravaganza in May. And it was Nuggets for Newbies, 10-time money-saving tips for authors just starting out. But guess what? Us old-timers need to be reminded often of these nuggets because, you know, the old saying, you can hear it once, you can hear it twice, but before it really gets in and sticks, it's roughly 21 times. So who's Nick? Well, he's a graphic designer. He's a multi-award-winning graphic designer, covers and interiors. And in fact, Nick designed my last two books, and Author U, creating and building the author book platforms. We are very tickled to get because it is a Forward Magazine's Book of the Year, just won the award at the American Library Association in the writing sector. So we're very excited. And Nick just really morphed and brought this book alive as a quasi-book and workbook, so kudos for him. Now, what he also has over 25 years of experience. He's worked for ad agencies, printing companies. He was an art director for an aviation magazine. He did product packaging for manufacturers. He even designed promotional material for the Denver Broncos, the Colorado Rockies, and several of the affiliates with Clear Channel radio system. So right now, majority of his work is book design, both the covers and the interiors. And his designs have won a variety of best cover designs from USA Book News, Indie Excellence Book Awards, International Book Awards, and of course now Forward Magazine Awards. So Nick, glad to have you back.
Thanks, Judith. Thanks for having me on.
You are
and
welcome.
Congratulations on the awards too. That's just great news.
Well, that's partly with you, you know. So I shall say Nick is an NZ Graphics, which is his company, is also one of the sponsors of Author U, your guide to book publishing. So in addition to all his other design work, Nick does do posters. He does great posters, those wonderful 5 and 6 foot banners that you can put as part of your promotional postcards, bookmarks, business marks. So he's all into what it is about branding. All right, Nick, we're going to jump into some of these nuggets.
All right.
For newbies that you had. And why don't we start out with, you know, one of the ones that you led with and really why it's important. It's what about this thing that you call mapping out the plan?
Yeah, so and it's very similar to what you state in your book, Author U, with the game plan, is that if you're a new author, and actually if you're not a new author, if you've done books many times, but you're just starting out, it's really good to kind of get a game plan and a mapping out your strategy and your plan of action before you do anything else. I mean, you know, obviously you're writing your book and that's paramount, but there's so many other things to be taking into consideration after that. So you just kind of need to map out your strategy of who you'll hire as your team people, because we know from experience that if you hire the right team, as you know, editors and printers and graphic designers and whatever, you're going to have the most success, guaranteed the most success. And you have to figure out at the get-go, you know, what can you do yourself efficiently, what you're good at, what you're not good at, you need to hire, because the competition in indie publishing right now is extremely, extremely competitive. I mean, the quality across the board is going up, and so anything less than really, really exceptionally professional is not going to do real well. So mapping out means, what do I do? I mean, beyond writing my book, do I need a web designer? Do I need, you will need an editor. You will need maybe a variety of editors. Maybe you'll need a content editor if your book is in the early stages. You'll definitely need a mechanical editor, a technical editor, and a proofreader. Those things are essential before a book goes to layout. And then, of course, you'll need a variety of other service providers. You'll need to figure out where you're going to print your book. Is your book going to be print on demand? Are you going to do small batch printing? Do you anticipate large sales? Do you want to use a traditional printer? Do you need a copywriter? Do you need somebody to write marketing copy for not only your book, your back cover of your book? Do you need them to use it for your social media? And in regards to social media, how do you get all those ducks in a row as you're planning out your book? So right off the bat, there's a lot of elements to the process of the book project, and you have to figure out as an author, where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses, what do I need to do to get those people in place so that I have a team that works in tandem with what your vision is.
And which is all of those things are critical. And I know one of the things you brought up was the different types of editors, and a lot of writers to become authors don't realize that there are multiple editors that could be involved in the play. And in fact, right now, Nick and I are working on quite an extensive book about World War II called Shutdown. And that I told the author just 20 minutes ago that I am going to box up the entire manuscript from the cold eye edit, and you will be shocked what we pulled out after 3 of us have already been through the book. That where we brought in, the final, which is what we want to have done before it goes to the printer. And those are that cold eye person is looking for, names that don't match up. For example, if you have pictures with captions, are the names the same that you have in the text content? And guess what? We found some that weren't, right, Nick?
It's true, and then we also found, just inconsistencies in how things are written, using an ampersand instead of the word and, or at least being consistent about that. But it's amazing what a cold eye reader will do. I mean, newbies need to understand that one editor most likely is not going to do the trick for your book if you're really determined to have a professionally done good book. I mean, my goal is to always, I'm assuming your book's going to be a bestseller no matter what. So you got to treat it that way, and the way you treat that way is to just get good editors. A content editor, somebody who can tell you, well, your story needs to go from A to B. You're mixing tenses, whatever. You need to get your the right timeline on certain things. Then a mechanical editor down the line who can fix grammar and punctuation, and then that cold eye reader that is so essential at the end, because they really do they'll just catch misspellings of names, foreign countries, just different small little things that will go by maybe 5 or 6 different reads from different people that we'll never get. So that's really it. I think, to me, that stage of preparation of the book is essential.
Well, the final stage, what I call the full-blown production, is one of my favorite stages, because you see everything all coming together, and you bring it about. And I know just the example of that cold eye, I caught an oddball thing that actually nobody caught, not even my final cold eye, and I was just going through, and then bang, it just jumped out at me. And it had, in this one text, it was referring to the number 800, as in a numerical, and then right after it had the word 100. And just, so we had an 800. Nobody caught that, because your eyes just don't get that. Your mind knows what it's supposed to do, and you just kind of tootle along.
Yeah, and that's why you always suggest and recommend that even authors, after they're done with a few edits, read the book aloud. I mean, I know I hear the sob stories from a lot of authors saying, I just don't want to read my book again for the 100th time. But it really is an important thing, and it's amazing what you catch when you're reading something out loud at a slow pace. But it does take many eyes for sure, because no book is no book on the shelf is actually dead perfect, but you can get pretty close to it. And you certainly want to avoid embarrassing mistakes and omissions and just the weird spelling of something that's not right,
Yeah, and just trust it. I mean, this is when sometimes Google is your best friend.
Yeah. Just keep it open and look at it all the time. So that phase is essential when you're really, really honed in on wanting to produce a professional, manuscript.
Okay. Now, one of the things you talk about, which I think is really important, because you and I are on the same page dealing with your cover copies, that we both want them to go out and take a peek at what's going on, what's out there, and what's in the competition. So because you are competing, so that what grabs you, what are they using bullets? Is it all narrative copy? Does it help the book, or do you glance over it? Is there a testimonial? What kind of credibility does the testimonial? And that one of the things that's very important for all our listeners to realize is that you don't bother with endorsements unless they carry clout with your potential reader. So if your reader who's out there has no recognition to who this person is, I mean, it could be Matilda next door, that it really isn't necessary to do that. You're wasting really valuable real estate. The single most important thing for me, and that's why I like to use bullets a lot, is that you're able to do short, succinct, but descriptive value that whatever this book brings to it, especially in a nonfiction book. Would you agree?
I agree, because that back cover copy is your elevator speech. It's like you meet an executive on an elevator. I always tell an author, and you've got 3 flights that you're going down. What you've got in 30, 45 seconds? What's your book about? Why should I buy your book? So you need to be succinct. It has to be, and so bullet points are very effective that way, because it's really telling people at a glance the value of the book, why I should buy this book, and you've only got most books are either a 6x9 at the largest size or a 5.5, 8.5. So your landscape for text is you've got something like 200 to 275 words maybe.
Nick, well, let's come back to this. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Is there a book in you or another? Author U will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, you'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. Author U brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through Author U's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, Author U is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join Author U today through its website at authoru.org. Follow Author U on Twitter at Author U and on Facebook at Author U, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. Author U, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
Every picture tells a story. And it's a truism that people do judge a book by its cover. Nick Zelinger and NZ Graphics have been in the business of producing superior graphic cover design and interior layout for self-published authors, independent and traditional publishers for years. He has developed a reputation for excellent work, fast turnarounds, and best of all, affordable pricing. NZ Graphics also produces ebooks and book marketing materials such as posters, sell sheets, postcards, bookmarks, business cards, logos, and more. Books designed for his clients have won multiple book awards, including Best Book Award by U.S. Book News, multiple Evie Awards from the Colorado Independent Publishers Association, Indie Book Awards, the San Francisco Book Festival Award, and Freedom Medal Award from Valley Forge. Visit www.nzgraphics.com or call 303-985-4174 for more details about making your book the success it should be. Mention that you are an FOJ, friend of Judith's, and that you heard about NZ Graphics on your guide to book publishing.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, so we are talking nuggets for newbies and not so newbies, because these all come into play. And that too many times I see that authors who have been out there, that they think they always know the right thing, and they forget sometimes who they're writing for, who the market is, what the benefits are, and they've got to switch gears and not be so married to some ideas, because there might be a better way to present, to hook and bring in, throw out the bait and bring in the reader to you. So be open-minded. I think it's always important to be open-minded a little bit, because we've all been wrong. All of us have been. All right, so Nick was mentioning the 6x9 size, and I'm just going to remind people that 6x9 is not so much the normal size unless you're into a hardback book. A good size fiction, you'll see that area. Right now we're seeing smaller sizes that are coming into play. Nick, what would you say the most common that you are dealing with in size?
Well, I mean, the most common, probably smallest regular size is 5.5, 8.5, but I'm doing more 5 1/4 wide by 8 tall, and even some 5x7s. I've done some poetry books that are 5x7, so those are all viable trim sizes for print, like Create Space or Ingram Sparks or traditional printers. So you're right, though. I mean, I've had the call from book buyers back east saying, those are the go-to sizes right now. So they are trending a little smaller. And I mean, you're only talking, like say 5.5, 8.5 has been around forever, but that's probably the more common large size now for a soft cover.
Yeah, it is the more common large size, U size at this point. And if you have a book that feels more intimate, that it's between you and the reader as you're going through, that smaller size, I think, really pays off.
It really does. It distinguishes itself from the pack. And like I said, if you've got something that's under 60,000 words or something, that considering that smaller size does make for a nicer book, especially if it's an inspirational book or a memoir or, a small how-to book or something like that.
Exactly. Nick, you used to talk about how important, you're a designer, but what are some of the key questions you wish authors who come to you would ask? Well,
one thing is, it is true, you should ask any designer that you're looking to hire a bunch of different questions, and whether or not, obviously, they have experience in cover and interior design, because if they don't and they're still gifted graphic designers, that's still not in their best interest. You want someone who's really, really experienced in publishing, because it's a different animal than just graphic design. But questions like, obviously, how designers work. In other words, what file do I need to give a designer? What pricing structure are we talking about? How many rounds of changes are included in that pricing? What the author can do to aid the graphic designer in the process of photos and images. If their book is like the one we were talking about with the World War II book, it had several hundred photos from World War II, which were a challenge into themselves, but just because of the quality and the sizing. So, what can authors do to aid the designer in those voluminous kind of, tasks to do, and then what programs are they using? What software? I mean, obviously, the two main software programs for publishing right now are still Adobe InDesign and Quark Express. Those they have been the two major ones because they both output to print-ready PDF and eventually whatever format for ebooks. So that is important. And then ask for, authors should ask for references. And then, as any designer would have a portfolio, and my website, for instance, pretty much functions as my portfolio. I've got hundreds of covers on there and testimonials and references. So it's sort of, people can visit that and see, for instance, me, without a call, they can see if I'm applicable to what, their project, for instance.
And how about the in the pocket question? What about rates? When is it appropriate to talk about what's this going to cost me?
Well, you can start that conversation at the beginning, and then somewhere about midway, perhaps, if your book has gotten a little more complex. But the graphic design in of itself has always been a little iffy and questionable about rates because there's no industry standard structure like a union, for instance, of plumbers or lawyers or whatever, where they have a certain thing. So you'll find somebody will look for designers. They'll find pricing a little scattered and all over the place, and a lot of that's based on graphic designers' experience and background and stuff. So it's probably good to ask a designer right off the bat, do you do cover design? Yes. Do you do interior design? Yes and no. Some designers do both, like I do. Some do one or the other. So what do you charge, and how do you charge? Do you charge, for instance, for interior design, do you charge a per page price, or do you charge by the hour? Do you charge by the project? And for that price, what do I get for that? Do I get X amount of changes or edit rounds of changes? Do that include that? If it's a cover design, do you have a one flat rate? Do you have, is it a variable? How many layout images do I get? How many rounds of changes do I get? It's probably good right off the bat, just because if you do or you don't have a budget, this is a good way to at least know how to budget for that, because graphic design is a large element in indie publishing. I mean, you really want to hire a professional to do this, unless you've got some skills yourself. But I know from experience, 99% of the time, that's not going to be the case. You're going to need to hire a professional like me or someone else to do the project. So
when you're dealing with, let me just say it this way: are there not variables that's going to cost a heck of a lot more if you have art? And art could be photos, it could be images that are dropped in, it could be illustrations, it could be creating like the call-out boxes that we use a lot. Versus a straight fiction text where all you're doing is chapter after chapter after chapter.
Yeah, I mean, fiction obviously is, across the board is always going to be a lot more inexpensive to lay out. You might have some images in a section page or a beginning chapter page, some elements, but that's minimal. So because you really are laying out fairly straight text. Nonfiction books or memoirs or how-to books that require or have images or charts or sidebars or call-outs are always going to be more, and that's priced. A graphic designer probably can give you a better price after he sees the manuscript, or he or she sees the manuscript and kind of knows what they have to deal with, because the biggest caveat to layout with books that have those elements is that when you go back in and you're doing changes, and if you're doing major changes, those elements move. So you've got, once you lay out a book and you're doing changes, text moves, and then maybe the sidebar, obviously the sidebar and the call-outs are not going to move with that, so you may have to relocate them. So that's extra work, and then usually graphic designers, when they know that, can price accordingly and kind of give you a ball. They'll usually give you a range of pricing. from A to B, somewhere in the range of that, to say it'll be at least this, it'll be no more than that, depending on what you have for changes.
And then you can work with that. But let's say to everybody, if you decide to rewrite your book in the middle of this, you're talking about a new book, this is a new layout, don't expect some changes and the price to go up. That's one thing. The second thing is, if you have photos or illustrations and art at the back of the chapter and you're thinking, it'd be so much better if this was on the opening page, guess what? You're talking about laying out the entire chapter again. Is that not correct, Nick?
That's really true, and that's why it's really great to have an in-depth discussion in that planning session with your designer right off the bat. If they want to see, for instance, at the start of the project, they want to see, can I see a couple of sample pages of different formats or layouts that have the photos here or the photos there, and then you'll pay for that extra kind of look. But generally, most designers and even authors somewhere down the line have a general feeling for what they want. But you're right. I mean, it's really crucial to have, obviously, your book edited and ready to go to layout and have an idea where you want these elements, photos and charts and sidebars to be. But if you down the line, because what happens with the interior designers, they meticulously lay out the book. It's just not dumping text in a file and letting it flow willy-nilly, and then hopefully it fits. They're tweaking every line so you don't have multiple hyphenations, that it doesn't have too much, inner space leading, so it's too scrunched up or it's too wide. So they're doing their best to lay it out per page. When you come in and add a new sentence or delete a whole sentence and don't have that same filled area, then things move differently, and it is really laying out the book twice.
And a lot of authors don't get that. They really don't get the amount of really meticulous time that goes into all of this. All right, when we come back, we're going to take another quick break here, but when we come back, I want Nick to go kind of into a very quick step-by-step of what do you need to prepare your manuscript before you hand it over, and then let's talk about how to get some royalty-free images and much, much more. So this is Judith.
Okay.
Right.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
Since 1987, Color House Graphics has set the standard for quality book production. Whether you decide to print a small quantity of books or need a large print run, depend on Color House to help you. You'll receive professional help and advice the moment you reach one of our representatives. If you mention hearing about us on your guide to book publishing, Judith Briles, we will provide you a discount on the first order you place. To speak with a project manager, call us toll-free at 800-454-1916 or visit us at www.colorhousegraphics.com.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Coming up, you'll hear more about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, with me is Nick Zelinger of NZ Graphics, and we're talking about nuggets for newbies, but they're really for oldies too, us old-timers who have been doing this for a long time. Because I always learn new things. And if you want to learn new things, whether you're a newbie or an oldie, I'm going to really encourage you to find yourself coming to Denver August 1st and 2nd. I have a very 2-day intensive workshop I do. It's called Judith Briles Unplugged. It is just me, where I'm going to put you through and make you develop a crowdfunding program, even though you haven't thought about crowdfunding. It's good to know because it's going to open up all kinds of doors for your own marketing. I'm going to show you how to structure a speech around your book. We're going to get into some publishing ins and outs. I'm going to show you how to create a bestseller on Amazon because we're going to create the campaign in the classroom, and of course, all about your game plan and how to do that, all based on my book, Author You, Your Guide to Book Publishing. And everyone that comes is going to get a free copy of Show Me About Book Publishing as well. All the information is on thebookshepherd.com. Just click on events. The discount goes away on Tuesday the 8th. All right, Nick, we are talking about the extravaganza and what you did because it was so valuable. The feedback was excellent. And I asked you before we went on the break about where in the heck do we get the royalty-free images? It's not Flickr and Google. And some of the tips on preparing your manuscript before we
Right. Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, don't go to Google and just pilfer any photo off the internet. That's the first thing, because there's copyright issues and quality issues, obviously. Images need to be a certain resolution, dots per inch for the print industry, so you want to buy the appropriate images. And there are scores of really good royalty-free image sites across the internet, and I use almost a dozen of them at different times because they have different photos and different images and vector files. But, I would say the top ones, if you're an author looking for appropriate images for your cover or for something else for the inside of your book that you want to show your graphic designer, iStock Photo, that's small I, stockphoto.com is good. And most of these are subscription services. You can go online, buy one image, or you can buy for a quantity of a certain amount dollar value. You can buy 50 to 100 images that you can download in the course of a year or a month or whatever. So it depends on how much you use them. But let's go back to that. But iStock Photo is really big. Fotolia, which is FOTOLIA.com. That's a really popular site. Shutterstock has been around for quite a while, and Getty's Images is a main one too. I mean, a lot of these have kind of overlapping with other sites. They'll have the same images or something. But I also use Think Stock Photos quite a bit this year. They have some good pricing on multiple images, and these also images they come in different resolutions. They come in for like web ready. So if you're just wanting images for your website you can get smaller and expensive resolution images, but they also have very large files. So if you're doing posters or book covers, you can do that too. And you've got CanStock Photo, which is CANSTOCK.com. Corbis Images is a main one. Some of these are, and they do all differ in pricing. I would say between all of them, Corbis Images and Getty Images are probably the more pricier ones. And not only do they carry royalty-free images, but they have rights manage images. So if you needed a special shot of, say, a professional baseball player or something like Joe DiMaggio or something, some of those things, they have archived for those files, but you have to pay for the usage of that, and it's limited usage. So there's probably at least a dozen, if not 50 sites that you can probably Google online, but I would say iStock Photo and ThinkStock Photo and Shutterstock are the ones that I use probably on a daily basis.
All right, so there is a lot, Pixel Perfect Digital, Unprofound, Open Photo, Big Stop Photo, 123rf.com. There is tons out here.
Yeah, there's just absolutely tons, and sometimes some of them have more of a base for, they'll have more European photography than others, and if that's your kind of guild, but they're all partitioned pretty nicely in terms of the subject matter, and the search engines are all good on all of them, so you can get very specific about the image that you want.
Exactly. So that works out well. But the thing is, when we say royalty-free, that means that you're not going to have to pay ongoing royalties to do it. You may pay $1 for the image. You could pay $5 for the image, but that there will be, in the sites that Nick referred to, there is usually a slight charge, but it is nominal for the use that you're going to get out of it.
That's really true. You can get, sometimes they'll run specials, and the most I've ever paid for probably one single image has been maybe $75 to $100 for something very specific, but most likely they're on the cheaper end from $1 to $20, depending on the size, but and royalty-free, which means that you can use it for your book cover, you can use it for your business cards, your website, anything. Rights manage is a little different. There's a limitation on what you can do. Books of a certain quantity for printing and stuff like that, and sometimes it has a time limit too.
Yes, and I've been on both sides of those things. All right, so prepare the manuscript before we head to someone like you. You talk about that you want to see the entire Word file as it come in, correct?
That's correct. I mean, I know some authors may have their book broken up into chapters. They write they have a chapter for every Word file. That's something to discuss with the designer, and maybe they'll be okay with that. I'm more happier to see one complete Word file of the book, but it's always good to have that for your designer to kind of look over before, they can obviously look at that and see if anything else needs to be done or changed, or they can give you some pricing just based on your Word file. Mm-hmm. That also, I've come across a couple of authors now, and some authors, obviously have been writing their book for several years, and so they decided to lay out their book in Word because either they have more time than they need to write or they want to do that. But most designers will say, don't lay your book out in Word. It's going to be changed when it goes to a different size, because you're laying your book out perhaps in an 8.5 by 11 format so that you can kind of visualize what you want to see. But the book is going to end up in a different size, so it's all going to look a little bit differently. But if you're laying it out, just so that you can give a designer the idea of what you have in mind, that's fine. But there are certain ways to do that.
Well, a lot of authors don't get that once it goes into book format, those 400 words that they thought would be just perfect on their 8 by 11, of course they're going to look perfect on our 5 1/4 by 8. That has gutters and margins and running heads, and the answer is no, it won't.
That's true. That's true.
So
designer sets margins for the gutter, because if you've got a 500 to 600 page book, that spacing is going to be scrunched in the middle of the book the way it's bound and collated. So you need extra space in the gutter. So the designer knows how to do that, and I think it's really essential that you kind of just really, really get hands-on it, discussions with your designer about that, because this is one of those elements where I think you can save time and money for your author. I'm all about saving money and grief for the first-time authors, so they don't come back and say this, a book is just too hard to do. It's just a nightmare. You can really save aggravation and time by just discussing beforehand how to get your file sent, because the major things that I see in Word files that authors forget to do, obviously, is editing, because I come across Word files that have multiple spaces between periods. There should only be one space between a period, not two. But I see 4, 5, 6 sometimes. I see call-outs inside the book when they're ready to go, for instance, to a designer. The preference for most graphic designers is to note where you want to call out to begin and where you want it to end, not have a box in the middle of of your Word file, because the call-out or the sidebar may look aesthetically different in the Word. In your actual layout. But so you just want to note where those call-outs or sidebars begin and end, and let the designer handle that design element. And that's a major thing right there. So you can cleaning up your manuscript is probably a multi-stage process. So you want to fix your spacing, or you want to at least get it to your editor and saying, could you fix up the spacing? Because if the designer's having to close up those spaces, that's taking time, and that'll take money, cost you money, so you can clean up. That sounds like a minor thing, but if you've got an 80,000 to 120,000 word file that has multiple variable spacing, and they've got to close all that up, that's taking time out of the layout.
Yeah, it's a mess. So just do it. What I simply do for all my authors is when we get to where it's going to be a sidebar or call out, we just put start box and put whatever the text is, and then end box, and then the designer knows that it's going to be treated special, and we'll figure out what that special is. And that's what we do all the pre-work, right?
That's the preferred way, because then they can give you a sample of, this is what a call-out would look like on your page. Do you like this? Or give you 3 samples, and you can choose one. But that helps a lot. Obviously, footnotes are another special thing that has to be separate from the narrative. Obviously in your Word file, you're going to locate that there, but as long as it's noted, that's where the footnote is, or an end note, for instance.
The notes, and then you need to decide how are we going to treat the end notes. Are we going to compile them at the end of each chapter, or are we going to do them all at once at the very end of the book? So it's important. All right, so we're going to take one more quick break. And then we're going to jump into some really round robin of things very quickly, because we have a lot more to cover here. This is Judith Briles. My guest is Nick Zelinger. We're talking designing your
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these on the Rockstar Radio Network.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems. You want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
Total Printing Systems customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
All right, with me is Nick Zelinger of NZ Graphics, and we're talking about the elements of your book design, which includes both the interior and the exterior, and some of the key things that your book covers as well as the interior needs, and one of those is called an ISBN. And that the ISBN typically goes in a bar, as well as a barcode on the back cover, as well as you put it on the copyright page, and that also would be along with the Library of Congress number. Nick, you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, you can get, obviously, go to Bowker. For instance, the main place to go is Bowker, BOWKER.com, to get your ISBN numbers, and then you can buy them individually, but the most cost-effective way is to buy a book of 10. I think they're still currently $250. The reason being 10 numbers gives you multiple versions of your book. If you're doing a hardback version, you're doing a soft cover, or you're doing your ebook, they all require a separate ISBN number. So you can buy the numbers there.
Nick will say, well, wait a minute, Amazon doesn't require an ISBN. That's right, for an ebook, but others do. So, and here's what I would suggest you do on your copyright page. If you're doing a case, whether you call it case bound, a hard, that you put what that is in the ISBN. If you're going to do a paper, even though your paper is not out, you're going to allocate that. Go ahead and write that in, and then put your ebook ISBN. That way, you don't have to keep redoing the copyright page.
That's true. Years ago, people would do that all the time and require new printing. So now it's a lot easier, and it just looks professional.
Yeah, exactly. And as well as your LCCN, if you plan on going to a library, if you want to pitch your book to a library, you're going to need a Library of Congress number. And where Nick said 250 is for the Bowker, you can go to either Bowker.com or you can go to their other site just for this, which is called My Identifiers, and that's plural, myidentifiers.com, and get it there. And you'll have them in minutes. They respond instantly. The other one is the LCCN, which you get at the loc.gov website, and that's going to cost you less than $50 to do this. It's a two-step process, and if any of you who are listening get confused, if you will just email me, either you can go to info@authoru.org or judith@briles.com and say, help, I need LOC info. I will send you a report that we've created that will help you out.
Yeah, and they're pretty fast with responding too, so that's something you can get done within a week, usually generally. And then Bowker, you can get your ISBN numbers the same as you purchase them. So
yes.
And they also offer barcodes, and then as Lightning Source and CreateSpace, they all offer their own barcodes. But most graphic designers now have barcode software like I do, and the preference is for me is that since books tend to be smaller and trim sized now, you don't want those big bulky rectangular ISBN number barcodes in the back of your book. It takes up a lot of real estate. You want to get you want to generate a barcode that's basically what we call a truncated size, which is like an 80% aspect ratio. So if you look in the back of books that you have in your own bookshelf, you'll see these smaller barcodes. They're narrower and smaller. They take up less size, and they look so much better. So So I just offer barcodes, free to my authors when I'm doing their covers. So.
Yeah, and just about all the designers we work with are the same. It makes it okay. We have a few minutes left. Let's talk about the process of cover design from layout to final. Can you do that in a few minutes, Nick?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, most designers you'll discuss. You as an author may have or may not have any idea what you want your book cover to be, or you may have some directions you want to give your designer. But rule of thumb is let the designer run with your ideas on that, because you may be surprised and get something really good. But for instance, for me, I'll offer in my pricing, I'll offer an author somewhere between 4 to even 6 solid front cover designs that they can vet and look and kind of critique. Sometimes I hit the button right on there, but mostly, you'll get a front cover first. You'll get 3 rounds of changes to that, and then the back cover comes after the front cover. The back cover, the elements of everything else, the spine and all that, will fall into place once the front cover is decided on. So you want to. That's usually the process of cover design. Getting a PDF file that you can kind of print out and look at, and then maybe if you've got a focus group, you can kind of vet those designs to them and see what works the best.
Right, and Nick and I have gone through. I mean, up to the last minute, we were ready to go to print on Courtney Miller's book, the first Raven Mocker, and he was so tied in that, and I kept going back to him because Nick and I were trying to push him to this one area that our guts, our experience said this is the one. And he was making the mistake that so many authors make, is especially new authors, and this is a fiction book, and he wanted all the key elements within the story all featured on the front cover.
Yeah, that's the number one issue that I come across with all authors on cover design, is that they're so close to the project, they think that every little scene in the book needs to be depicted on a cover because it's important to them. Most book buyers and the general public, they don't care about that. They want to have an emotional impact with the title and maybe 1 or 2 images, or maybe it's just a color combination or some emotional element that grabs them. Cover design is marketing and art, and a wonderful marriage of marketing and art, and it works best when a good designer can do that. But having 15 different elements on a cover will never work for any book, really.
No, and then what we asked Courtney is, he said he did a focus group, and I said, well, that's great. Who was in your focus group? And then when he told me all the people who was in his focus group, his neighbor, his great friend, his wife, his daughter, those people love you, and they cannot be in your focus group.
That's true. There's got to be your potential buyer. Somebody would buy your book. And that doesn't mean you'll have to like them if they have to buy your book. So you have to think of it as that's a business. That's a part of the business right there. It's not a feel-good buddy club where people will just pat you on the back and say, yeah, it's good. I would buy that anyway. You want total strangers looking at your book cover.
Absolutely, total strangers, and you want to really get that input. And it turned out that the cover he went to, which is he finally crossed over, and he's gotten unbelievable rave reviews for the cover. And I need to say this, for those of you listening in, I'm actually recording outside today because it's so beautiful, so you might hear birds chirping, there could be a waterfall, once in a while a plane goes over, and because we are pre-4th of July, I actually hear the little boys next door with firecrackers.
I can hear them.
Well, people are going to wonder, so you might as well just let them know what's going on. So here we are. Anyway, so the process of cover design is that you get the example of that book cover, and here's why it's so great to start thinking of that book cover. Even though it might be tweaked, you can get that up on your website, and you start feeling it's coming, and you can announce it. And when you get closer and closer, is that you actually can create your, if you're going to sell it on Amazon, your Amazon page where they can start taking pre-orders. And Nick and I had one client, Michelle Marchardon, who did her book for yoga, that she had over 1,000 pre-orders because she had that up a solid month and was marketing aggressively before that book was even available. We weren't even at the printers yet, and she was selling it like hotcakes.
Yeah, getting your cover done right off the bat is a good idea for most people. I think it gives a face to the project, gives you that time to market aggressively your book because you've got a product out there, or at least the face of the product. And so when I get a lot of people ask me, well, when should I get a cover done? Well, get it done, but get it done right away.
Absolutely, and you know what? It adds as inspiration to keep going. It's almost there. I can see it. I can feel it. I know when you designed the cover for my book that I'm actually going to formally launch this month, Snappy, Sassy, Salty, I think we got it on pretty much the second patch. I mean, you came
we did, yes.
And it was there, and I felt it, and I loved it. It's important for me to love my covers, but it came in. All right, Nick, we've got 2 minutes left. So what can we do? Some quick wrap-ups for Secrets of Great Book Design.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, go back to get your team together, get your all the elements that you want, but get your Word file in a state that you can present it to a designer so that you can get a pricing on it. List, and we go back. We haven't said this, but the best thing you can do as an author is go to your bookstore and do your research. Find the books that are in your genre that are bestsellers that work, so that because those are the people you're going to compete against. So find how those covers work, how much cost, so that you can figure out, there's nothing new in publishing. It's all been regurgitated in your own way, but you need to know what your competition's doing and how they're doing well so that you can match and beat that. So that research is invaluable for not only for you, but for your designer too, because it'll give you ideas what you want to give your designer for interior, the look of an interior and the look of a cover too.
Absolutely, and if you see one that you love, of course, that's what your phone is for. It's got a camera. So Take pictures of that, and also don't forget to open up the book and look at how it opens. And other books, find those visuals that just pop at you, because that all does help your designer.
That's true, and look at spines, too. If you've got a really thick book, that spine is extra real estate that can really stand out and be extra special, and there's a lot of different ways to produce and present a spine on a book that gives it a fresh, new look, and it's just not the title and your name blandly put there. You can do some inventive stuff in design with a spine, too, because it's all part of the package.
Yeah, and have some fun. All right, wrapping up, Nick Zelinger, NZ Graphics. Is where you can find it, nzgraphics.com, and lots of good information. Thank you, Nick.
Sure, thank you. Happy 4th.
Happy 4th.
I'm gonna
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week,